We never wanted any of this. We loved him so much.
Did your brother deserve to die?
In the heart of a small Michigan town, a tragedy unfolds in silence, punctuated by acts of cruelty that defy explanation.
That's a cold, ice-cold bath. She had asked you to put hot sauce directly into his mouth. She asked you to pour hot sauce on his
leading to the tragic death of Timothy Ferguson and the subsequent arrest of his brother, Paul.
But the injury to his head, that's not what killed him, okay? Okay. But what killed him was not eating.
15-year-old Timothy Ferguson had a tough life. From an early age, Timothy suffered from autism with speech and motor impairment. On top of that, he endured a litany of abuse by the hands of his own family. As the details of Timothy's suffering came to light, the question on everyone's lips was why? Why would Timothy's own brother subject him to such unimaginable cruelty? In the seemingly tranquil suburb of Muskegon, Michigan, under the guise of discipline, Paul Ferguson administered punishments to his younger brother Timothy so barbaric that it would ultimately end his short, tortured life. Children with autism and speech and motor impairments may show behaviors misunderstood as misbehavior. These can include communication difficulties, resulting in frustration or outbursts when they can't express their needs or feelings. Motor impairments could make it hard for them to perform expected tasks, possibly leading to perceptions of non-compliance. Sensory sensitivities common to autism might also cause reactions to overwhelming stimuli, which could be misinterpreted as acting out. For his perceived misbehavior, the developmentally disabled Timothy was deprived of food and sleep, administered ice-cold baths, forced to vomit, and even had strict limits on toilet use. In a house that should have been his sanctuary, Timothy was consigned to live in a closet space so cramped and dark, it was barely fit to store clothing. Timothy's diet was restricted to plain bread, but sometimes the bread was soaked in hot sauce. The house was sealed off, curtains closed, and doors locked at all times to prevent anyone from laying eyes on the abuse happening inside the home. As Timothy's condition worsened, the cycle of abuse continued unabated. Then, on July 6, 2022, the abuse came to a head. Timothy's mother and brother attempted to wake him up, but he was unresponsive. Over the next 18 minutes, they make more attempts to revive him. Finally, they call 911, claiming that the 15-year-old had gone on a hunger strike and isn't waking up. Upon arrival, officers were confronted with a scene that would haunt them forever. Timothy was dead, his emaciated body weighing a mere 69 pounds. The extent of his starvation and maltreatment was undeniable. Police immediately arrest Timothy's brother Paul Ferguson and their mother Shanda Margaret Vander Ark. Paul's role, as revealed through the investigation, implicates him as the enforcer of the abuse, acting under their mother's direct orders. Paul confronts the evidence against him and the complexity of his mother's involvement, making the interrogation room a battleground where blood ties and the quest for justice collide.
From what I saw, it sounds like you were compassionate and that you cared about him, and you sent some pictures that were like, he's looking too skinny and we need to feed him. And there's sometimes you get frustrated, but at the end of the day, you kept coming back to caring.
In a dimly lit interrogation room, the delicate balance of trust and suspicion hangs in the air as Detective Harris employs a strategy of calculated sympathy towards Paul Ferguson. This approach is a tactical maneuver designed to break down the walls of resistance and encourage Paul to share his story.
Are you working 2 different jobs? Did you say you're working 2 different jobs?
No, I used to work 2 different jobs.
I heard you say that.
In Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Because I think your brother was like, I want to work 2 jobs. And you're like, no, you don't.
No, 4 hours of sleep maximum was a nightmare.
That's a joke. That's not even funny, actually. Huh. Yeah, 4 hours doesn't sound like a lot to get anything done. What kind of jobs are you doing then?
Fast food.
Okay.
In this exchange, Detective Harris gently jokes about Paul's lack of sleep from working 2 jobs. The detective's approachable demeanor encourages Paul to share more about his employment background, subtly fostering a connection between them.
I know that we talked yesterday. And
Yeah.
I know that not everything that we talked about was the truth yesterday. That's okay. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel guilty about not telling the truth to me, okay? I want you to just focus on yourself right now and think about what's best for you.
Yeah.
And let's try to get to the truth of what really happened with your brother, because he deserves that. It's okay. It's okay.
I feel so guilty, like I could have done something at any point in this. We didn't want any of this. We never wanted him to be injured or hurt. I loved him so much.
Yeah, I can tell that. I can certainly tell that.
Harris acknowledges Paul's love for his brother Timothy, validating his feelings rather than immediately questioning their truthfulness. This acknowledgement makes Paul feel understood, but the intention is to get him to open up about the circumstances leading to Timothy's death.
When you say we, you're talking about your mother.
Yes, she loved him. We wanted what's best.
I just feel like I could have done something. I should have put my foot down at some point. I loved him so much.
What would have happened? What would have
happened?
happened with your mom if you put your foot down? What would have happened?
I don't know. Maybe something would have been different. Maybe he would still be alive. I promised him before the whole thing with mom and dad that I would protect him, but I failed so hard.
Rather than direct confrontation, this tactic uses hard evidence to puncture Paul's narrative. The goal is to introduce undeniable facts gradually, compelling Paul to reconcile these with his version of events.
What I do want you to know, though, is that we went through the phones, okay?
Okay.
And we're beginning to go through the phones, and there's a lot of evidence in the phones, and I know that you're kind of aware of communication between yourself and your mother.
Yes.
And those sort of things, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about.
Detective Harris acknowledges that Paul may have been untruthful in their previous discussions, but reassures him that correcting his story now is okay. This is a strategic move to make Paul feel more comfortable admitting to falsehoods.
I know that when we talked yesterday in front of your mom, she was lying about some stuff, right? I know that she's a good person. I'm not doubting that at all.
Yeah,
I know that
we
she
never
cares.
wanted any of this.
Throughout the interrogation, Ferguson's eyes consistently meet the camera's lens, as if acutely aware that he's performing for an audience. This intentional eye contact sharply contrasts with his behavior when lying. His eyes dart from side to side, betraying a nervous energy and hinting at the deceit underlying his composed facade.
Why do you think
She
she's
doesn't
lying?
want to appear like a bad person. She doesn't want to be the bad guy in this. We never wanted any of this. We want him to be healthy. I know that for a fact. We should have been so much. I should have at least put my foot down on something.
Right. But she knows that you shouldn't be using hot sauce as a punishment, right? She knows better than that. And you know better than that too, right? I think that anybody with some common sense knows that hot sauce is not something used to punish a child for eating food that they're not supposed to eat, or for disrespect, or for not following orders. We know those things aren't okay.
I know that. We've tried so many different things. We just were running out of options of trying to find a punishment that would actually work. And even that did nothing.
Right.
And we still kept trying though. I don't know why.
How do you feel about lying during this? How does that make you feel?
I just hate it. I know she doesn't want to be the bad guy. She never wanted this. We loved him so much. And it just...
I don't think it's about love at this point. I think it's about not knowing what to do, not knowing how to handle the situation.
Harris confronts Paul with the evidence of his mother's lies, indirectly questioning Paul's narrative by highlighting inconsistencies in both of their accounts. This tactic subtly urges him to reconsider his statements in light of the evidence presented.
I think you have to think about this. Right now is not a time about blaming people, but it's a time to try to figure out, when could we have changed things? What could we have done differently? How did we get to the point where we were at? Because, clearly where you guys got to, you say you was in the bath. That wasn't a nice, enjoyable bath though, right? That was a punishment bath. right?
Detective Harris uses moral highlighting to appeal to Paul Ferguson's sense of right and wrong, emphasizing the gravity of Timothy's suffering and the moral imperative to tell the truth.
When he's getting these ice baths, I know there's numerous of them, right? I mean, because I've read through the messages.
Yes.
How are you getting the ice? Like, where's it coming from?
We have an ice machine upstairs. It's not a lot. It can barely create any. It's enough to make it a full-on.
Okay. But it's a cold bath. How did he get that injury in his head? Did you hit him once a little harder than you maybe wanted to? It's okay, man.
Yeah, I remember I kept trying to pick him up after I'd gotten him out of the closet, and I think at one point he actually scratched where I pulled away, and he fell, and I think it happened several times, like he was trying to get out of my reach.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he slipped out of my hand and hit his head on the ground. But
What part of his head did he hit?
Was it the sides? I don't know the exact region, because by the time I heard the thud, I was literally about to turn around because I had to stop for a moment to breathe. I was frustrated. I was.
Listen,
I never wanted
let
any
me
of
stop you
this.
first, okay? But the injury to his head, that's not what killed him, okay?
Okay.
But what killed him was not eating. I know that when we talked yesterday in front of your mom, she was lying about some stuff, right? I know that she's a good person. I'm not doubting that at all.
Yeah,
I know
we never wanted any of this.
But you also noticed, like I know, that some of the things that she was talking to us about were the truth, right? She said she didn't know there was a camera in the bathroom. But the fact of the matter, she asked you to put the camera in the bathroom, right? Didn't she send you a text message that says, make sure that the camera's in there and take the shower curtain down so I can see him? Didn't she ask you that the day before he passed away?
Yeah.
So we talked about some of that stuff. Remember how during the conversation I said, I know this pepper's for, it's for punishment. And what did she say? She said, oh, I didn't know anything about that, right? Why do you think she's saying those things?
Here, Harris introduces discrepancies between Paul's story and his mother's story. This methodical approach aims to highlight details in his account that don't align with the evidence.
You're his brother, and you have a mother that's telling you what to do. And so, I understand why you feel the way that you do, but at the same time, you have to look at you think that your mother's telling you to do what's best for him, right? That's what you've been telling me since
Yeah.
you were here.
And I know she wants what's best for all of us.
So tell me what really happened in the morning then, because obviously what was told to us wasn't the truth. What really happened when somebody found him, or?
I woke up and I had been grabbing my shoes, and it was at that point that it basically all played out like we said. The whole morning thing was exact. He wasn't breathing in the closet. It was the closet though. We had to get him out of the closet to try and resuscitate.
So it's you and your mother that tried to get him out of the closet?
We did get him out.
Okay.
We tried to resuscitate.
Who noticed him first? You or
My
your
mother.
Okay. Did she have asked you via text to check on him on the way up? That's not what happened. She said, hey, can you check on him on your way upstairs? Do you remember that text message at all?
No.
Okay.
There might have been one that I didn't see, but
Okay. So you guys pull him out of the club.
we tried to resuscitate him. We gave him rescue breaths. His breath smelled horrible. I thought maybe he might have still been capable of being resuscitated because his mouth was still wet.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it had just been recent, so we could do something. She cared. She never wanted this. We didn't.
But you sent her pictures of him looking dead, right? Looking almost dead.
Yeah.
Detective Harris intensifies the investigation by presenting Ferguson with text message exchanges between him and his mother. He confronts Ferguson with images documenting Timothy's worsening condition, alongside Ferguson's own messages to his mother.
That's your brother.
Yeah.
That's June 13th, less than a month ago. You sent this picture to her and you said, he's looking like a skeleton, we need to give him more food. But you guys didn't give him more food over the next couple weeks. You guys gave him less and more punishment and less bread and more bread with hot sauce. That's what really happened. You reached out to her and said, this is scary looking, right? You probably thought, he can barely walk. You sent a picture of his legs, right? You sent this picture of his legs to your mother, right here. You sent this to her. And what'd you say? Something along the lines of, no wonder he can barely stand up or walk. Look at that. And your mother, being smart and intelligent and the smartest woman in the room, she didn't do anything about that? Didn't think about taking him to the doctor? Didn't think about, we have to give him some more food, like seriously now? Instead, what do you think she did? She gave him less and more punishment. Until what? He ends up dead. And what did she tell the police? He was always wearing baggy clothes, so I didn't notice anything until last night. Another just blatant lie. Another blatant lie. If this was all an accident, why would she lie to us? If this was all an accident, why wouldn't she just say, we were having a really hard time with him. I thought he was okay. No, she knows that he looked like this. That he looked like this. Look at his face right there. That's not who your brother looked like, is it? No. He didn't look like that. Does that look like it? That looks like somebody in a casket that you see at a funeral. That's what that looks like. And it's sickening and disgusting. You sent that to her, didn't you?
Yeah.
You sent that to her on July 5th. Right before the day leading up to him being found dead. Does he look like he's okay right there?
No.
Why'd you send that picture?
I was concerned.
Yeah, once again, you're not the smartest person in the room and you're concerned. Did she do anything about it? No, you know what she said? He's gonna sleep in the bath all night tonight. He's sleeping in the bath all night tonight. The smartest woman in the room. He's getting in the bathtub all night for punishment. Make sure the shower curtain's away so I can see him. And what happens later on that night? At some point between the time this picture is sent and the time you wake up in the morning, he dies.
In this moment, the detective directly challenges the veracity of Paul's previous statements, now essentially forcing Paul to confront his story. Harris's prompt for a real version of events is a direct yet careful way to control the conversation and steer it toward the truth.
She doesn't want to seem like she's bad, that we weren't neglecting him. And even if that's if it somehow ended up like that, it was never intentional.
Right. Well, what you're saying, I mean, if we talk, right, there's all these things where you're like, she didn't want it to seem like this. She didn't want it to seem like this. She didn't want it to seem like this. Did you know that it all seems like that, right?
Yes, I know.
It does. And he clearly was neglected because he died from it, right? The reality is that he was. That's why we're here talking today. So he was very much neglected. And the fact that, you know, she had asked you to put hot sauce on his private parts. Do you remember that?
She asked, but I never did. I never
You
did.
never did that?
No.
Okay. And she had asked you to put hot sauce directly into his mouth. Did you do that?
Yes.
She told you what to say? It's okay. She told you what to say? Because why? Did she tell you why? Does it look bad for you guys?
It's not just that. We loved him.
Can I ask you this, like straight up? You keep saying love. Do you feel like this was love? That he's dead now because he couldn't eat food? Does that feel like love to you?
No.
He's dead because he couldn't eat.
No.
And I don't know anybody that thinks that's love. What I think's happening is your mom's convinced you that she's this perfect person and she's asking you to do all these things that are literally killing your brother.
I know she's not perfect.
How is that love? How is love ice baths? How is love handcuffing? And how is love restricting movement? And how is love hot sauce in the mouth and only eating bread with? What if you only got to eat bread? How would you feel? What if you only got to eat bread with hot sauce? Would you eat?
No.
She didn't care. You can say it if you want. She starved him to death because he wouldn't stop taking food. Well, maybe he's taking food because he wants to live. Have you ever thought about that?
Yes.
Maybe he's stealing food so that he can survive. He's dead because he didn't get food.
I know that.
Well, that's not anybody's fault but your mother's. And you can try to take some of the blame if you want, but it's her fault because every single time I see a message in here, it's her telling you what to do. And she put you right in the middle of this. She put you right in the middle of this where it looks like some of the stuff's your idea. And it actually looks like in some of these things that you kind of enjoy it.
I've told you everything that I have. I don't want to live a life where I regret the fact that I hid somehow, something, and I've told you everything I know.
How do you feel about living a life where you hid that your brother wasn't eating from society, that you hid that your brother was dying? How do you feel about that?
I hate myself, okay? If I could take his place right now, if I could give him back his life, I'd do it in a dadgum heartbeat.
She didn't want him around anymore because he was too much of a problem. You know that's the truth. You can look back at it and see that, can't you? She didn't want him around anymore because he was too much work. That's the truth. And the second you start to believe that and understand that, then I think that's the time you can move forward in this case. Until you believe that, until you understand that, you're never moving forward from this. This isn't an accident. This didn't just happen. Your mom knew exactly what was happening to him, that he was wasting away. You saw it, didn't you? You saw it happening right in front of you. And this is criminal. This is a crime. Did your brother deserve to die?
No.
Should he be dead right now?
No.
Is he dead by the choices of others?
Yeah.
Who made those choices? Who made the choices for him to be dead right now? Did you make some of those choices?
No.
Who made those choices?
Mama.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Shanda Margaret Vander Ark was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for her son Timothy Ferguson's murder and torture. Despite testifying against his mother, Paul Ferguson was sentenced to 30 to 100 years for his role as the enforcer in the abuse. Between 2009 and 2012, when Timothy was as young as 2 years old, Oklahoma CPS conducted investigations into allegations of abuse by Vander Ark. The authorities' recommendation was unequivocal. Her parental rights should be terminated. This decision was not made lightly. It was the culmination of years of concerning behavior that, in any functioning system, should have marked the end of Vander Ark's unsupervised interactions with her children. However, in 2012, instead of terminating Vander Ark's rights, an agreement was brokered with her ex-husband. Vander Ark would leave the state, relinquishing access to her 3 children. This arrangement permitted her supervised visitation, limited to 3 hours per month, a concession that Muskegon County prosecutors say appears to have failed. Vander Ark had 18 known addresses between Oklahoma and Virginia, painting a portrait of an unstable and transient lifestyle. How did Vander Ark relocate to Norton Shores, Michigan in May 2021 with not just Timothy but also Paul and their youngest brother Gabriel in tow? This question points to a critical gap between legal recommendations and the real-world application of child welfare protocols. The very act of her regaining custody, despite a documented history of abuse allegations and a recommendation for the termination of her parental rights, points to a systemic disconnect between legal advisories and the realities of enforcement.